the GMPs that we have in hand, as well as the phasing for the remainder of the project, and I'll finish up and talk about the financing.
Good afternoon, Mayor, council members. My name is John Osterstock. I'm the facility project manager. Wanted to discuss with you an exciting project that we've been working on. You may have heard of it, the Yacht Club project. So first I wanted to get into a little bit of some of the history of the Yacht Club and this Yacht Club facility that was down there. It was originally built in 1962, and it served as a hub for the city for, all kinds of celebrations and weddings and whatnot. About 60 years into its lifespan, was slated for some renovations at around 2022, which was going to include some horizontal improvements as well as some refurbishment inside. About the same time, the seawall was inspected down there, and it was determined that there were some elements that were failing as part of the seawall, and it needed to be reconstructed. As luck would have it, about that same time, Hurricane Ian came in and severely damaged the original structure, so it needed to be completely rebuilt. So at that point, the council had met with the designers and Seymour and realized that this was an opportunity for the city to kind of pivot to a large-scale redevelopment and construct something that is very powerful and meaningful for the city here. So the staff began to redesign stuff and go back to our permitting and change the scope for those and push those through the permitting process. Ultimately, we were able to receive the core permit in April of this year, and that set us up to begin the marine improvements to begin either at the end of this year or early next year. So the marine package, the whole package, consists of the demolition of the existing docks that are down there, as well as some marina dredging, construction of the seawall itself, relocation of a boat ramp, and replacement of the marina fueling tanks and dispensers. There's a permit requirement also from the Water Management District to provide twin box culverts, which will act as flushing mechanisms to provide some fresher water to the marina basin. In addition, replacing all the boat slips with fixed and floating docks. And this total cost of this portion of the project is going to be about $35 million, plus inspection services. So what that entails, or what that means, is basically that we have an estimated annual debt service of around $3 million for 30 years. The construction duration of the full package from the marine would be about 20 months. So one option that we have when we started thinking about this is, we're going to be building all of these slips and docks down there, but we're not going to be able to utilize them for several years, potentially 2 to 3 years. So does it make sense to build that and leave it exposed to the elements for 2 to 3 years? Probably not. So we've revised the marine package to trim it down a little bit so that we weren't putting those docks out there, and so that you can see what it would then include. And this scope of the project would be whittled down to about $2.2 million per year of annual debt service, or a total price of $24 million. So the important thing is we need to get the seawall constructed before we can do anything else on the project. So the next portion of the project would be the upland phase. This would include civil site improvements, getting the utilities in, all the underground work, so that we could perform all of the vertical construction afterwards. It would also include the harbor master building, the 4-story parking garage, a maintenance building, and in this scenario, we would then be putting in the underground fuel tanks. The total cost of this phase is around $85 million, or a estimated debt service annually of $6 million. The construction duration for this portion of the project is approximately 24 months. Phase 2 of the upland work would finish out the project by building the community center, the concession buildings, a resort-style pool, the playgrounds and beach area, and then we would also be putting in a future restaurant pad. We'd also obviously be finishing the landscape in this phase. The estimated cost of this portion of the project is around $90 million. and that would equate to about a $6.5 million estimated debt service annually. This portion of the project is also expected to last around 24 months. Now, I think it's important to note here that if you add all these durations up, it's going to be a lot longer than what it's actually going to take to build this project. Ideally, we're going to be phasing this stuff so that there's overlap between these GMPs or these phases. So we expect it to shrink down to about a 4-year overall construction duration. A couple other things to consider. We talked about delaying the boat slips to be constructed probably somewhere concurrently with phase 1 or phase 2 of the upland work. The boat slips themselves are approximately $11 million construction cost at today's dollars. One thing also to note is that when we do build the boat ramp in the basin, it really won't be operational until we get these docks and the other amenities and utilities out to service that area. There's also another thing to consider as far as coordination is concerned, and that would be the construction of the boathouse. Ideally, we'd start constructing the seawall. We're going to work from south to north. So the first thing we're going to do is that south area there, right where the boathouse is. And like I said, ideally, we would start our marine package. We'd be moving north, and we get well out of their way. So by the time that the boathouse comes in to reconstruct next year, we're already out of their way, and there's minimal interaction between our two projects. So with that, I'm going to hand it over to Mark.
Mark Mason, Assistant City Manager. So when we looked at this, I think probably a couple of things to talk about is that this is probably the third time we've come forward with a financing plan for this. We originally came forward in March of 2022 when we did a presentation on the original site plan. At that time, it had a parking garage, and we talked about parking fees for the parking garage at the time. At no time have we ever talked about anything other than $2 or $3 per hour. However, from a practical standpoint, if and when the garage is built, you'd actually come up with a different scenario about how to actually charge for parking. In June of 2024, we also discussed this with the City Council, more or less privately at the time. When we were talking about then, we had changed the site plan, and we were talking about a potential project of $120 or $150 million. And so here, right now, we're estimating this total project cost to be $225 million. It may be more, it might be a little bit less by the time we get done and get the GMPs in hand and in sight and start construction. The estimated average annual debt service for this would be $14.2 million. That's if we issued all $225 million at one time. And the scenario that we've given you is to assume that we've issued it all at one time to give you an idea of the overall potential impact from a timing basis is concerned. This would include the construction cost as well as the $11.7 million associated with design and construction, engineering, inspection services. This is all inclusive in this total estimated cost. This also takes into account that we do not expect any of the estimated site revenue sources, i.e. the boathouse, any parking garage revenue, any revenue that we might receive from slip rentals or any revenues associated with the convention center type area that we're going to have, or the pool, will begin until 2029. It may be later than that, it might be earlier than that, but right now we're forecasting 2029. The boathouse may begin operations in 2028. That's going to assume that we've met the obligations of our contract with them and they have 150 spaces for parking. If the parking garage is done by then, it's a good possibility that they will probably have that. So that's taken into account that it begins that operation then. However, the revenues associated with the boathouse in the upfront years is limited. And so you don't actually see some of the revenues until the second year of their operations. The project also relies on public service tax funds. When we talked about this a little over a year ago, we had broached the subject of utilizing the additional 3% that is available on the public service tax in order to finance this project. At the time, when we were talking about 120 or 150 million dollars, in order to finance it at even at the $2 per hour parking garage cost, we would likely need some additional revenues at the time, and that's when we talked about the public service tax funds. In this case, that would bring in the first year about $6.9 million. Of course, there would be some growth associated with this over time. We would also recapture the $2.6 million that is currently associated with the charter schools as their LCI funds and the PICO funds gets to 100% for funding. So this would approximate about $9.5 million a year that would go towards this debt service of $14.2 million. The important part with this is that the city will need to carry the cost of any debt issue for the first 3 or 4 years until, and this would include the approximately $9.5 million in public service tax funds in order to carry that cost. So that would be carrying that cost of about $28 to $43 million over that period of time. And the $43 million mostly has to do with the timing of when certain revenues would come into effect in order to fund the project in the future. And so I've given you a financing plan, a 5-year pro forma associated with this. This makes some assumptions, some of the assumptions I just talked about. It also gives you, we make some assumptions of what we think the boat docking service charges will be in the first year. This is a big assumption in the first year. And at the same time, the boathouse revenue share, we take into account the potential of the parking garage service charges, also any of the pool, community center or pool fees and charges in the first year. And then we also take into account the other revenue sources I just talked about. Importantly, in 27, 28, we would likely need to do an internal loan from the general fund that would be to make debt service payments, assuming that all the debt will have been issued by then for this project. Much depends on the timing of when each phase goes into effect. I think clearly there will be some overlap on the phases. So from a practical standpoint, if we're assuming that this takes 4 years in order to build, that there will be some overlap in Upland 1 and Upland 2. So in this scenario, we're looking at fiscal year 2029 is when we start seeing some of the revenue, but at the same time, it's when we start seeing a lot of the expenses associated with the operation of the park at the yacht club. And so I'm here if you have any questions. Oh, sorry. So from summary, something that, why are we here? I think that's probably a good question. What we're looking for from the city council today is that there's a consensus for us to move forward with the construction of the seawall. We would finance this, in the interim period for about 9 months, utilizing commercial paper until we get to a point where we're going to be getting GMPs for the Upland 1 project, and then we would actually issue the first tranche of any debt. From a holding standpoint, there's no need to actually issue the debt today, but we have the resources necessary to be able to finance the cost of the seawall up front. So then we would build the seawall, boat ramp, box culvert docks first. Based upon our estimates, the docks would likely sit idle for 3 years, so we're recommending the seawall only. In order to finance this, we would recommend that we start with the 3% public service tax on electricity and natural gas beginning in 2026. From a timing standpoint, it would probably be the fourth quarter of 2026 due to the 3-month notification, et cetera, and the timing of how that is put into place. The yacht club resources will be and are insufficient in order to carry the debt service for the build out of the site. And so the project will rely on some dedicated revenue source besides those sources that come in from the yacht club. Again, if the yacht club does not materialize with the revenues that we're currently projecting, then the city will have to make up the difference with that. And of course, I talked a little bit about the $8 million loan to carry the debt service in the initial years. We would look for a payback of that over 8 years. And that again is primarily because of the revenues that we would be seeing from the yacht club to be able to reimburse back the city for the upfront cost. And now I'm ready if you have any questions.
Mayor, can I close with a couple
Sure.
items? So in my discussions with several of the council members who have not been here throughout the entire progression, I've been asked to, can we get the progression of how it went from the GO bond, which was horizontal improvements, through basically where we're at today. And so I want, also tied to this, on the consensus of, do we have direction to move forward with the seawall? I also want to know if you want me to include that, like, let's say in the January budget, or if you want us to do a cow, just kind of a history summary of in a cow. We can either tie this together with a bigger discussion about budget and revenues, or we can do that. But it's been a request from several council members to understand how it went from the GO bond of 11 to where we're at today. And then with that, I know that, I'm going to just say it, sticker shock, right? $225 million estimate. And so some of what is being asked, at least to administration, is, well, how did we get here? Well, that goes back to the history of the progression of the plan itself. And ultimately, when we hit the 50% rule at the ballroom, then it became an issue of looking at, well, what are we building for? Are we building for today of 220,000 residents, or with a facility like this that has a 75, 100-year life, considering that within 20, 30 years, we're going to be at 400,000. So the idea is we're not building a facility that is just for 220,000. We're building a facility that's going to sustain 75 to 100 years for 440,000 residents. And so that, I think, is a piece that is, if not overlooked, maybe misunderstood, in that, part of the idea of stretching out the payments using the long-term debt is so that you're not putting the full cost of the people who live here today. You're stretching it out over that 40, 50, 60, longer lifespan of a building as the city grows into the 400,000, that over 400,000 we're going to have. So I just wanted to add some general statements to, where we're at, how we got here. And then I was asked to provide that history. That I would like to know if you all want to have that at a cow or part of the budget discussion in January. Thank you.
Okay, with that, I'll open up discussion. Councilmember Laster.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Mr. City Manager, because I did ask for that. For me, I really wanted to see the renditions, because I think Mo had previously stated in a previous meeting that I could get those online, but they're not all on there, right, from the very beginning.
I think Mark may have brought them.
Okay, good. I just wanted to see, like, starting from the very beginning, when Mayor Joe was still alive, to, I was 2 years off for good behavior and then back on. And then I remember the last time when I left, we were going, I was trying to be funny, lighten the mood. We changed the boat launches because we had an overwhelming, and Mayor, you might recall this, and Councilmember Long, you might recall this, but we had an overwhelming push from the residents around that area to move those boat ramps. Remember that? When we moved?
Well, the Parks and Rec master plan, the number one request was to expand the beach.
Correct.
And so we had to move the boat ramp to expand the beach.
Correct. And that was at the 30, the last I recall was about the 35 or 30 million mark. And so, for me to see those visuals, Mr. Mason, would be helpful, and helpful probably for the public. I guess where I go to is when we talked through, you talked about it just now, about how last year council had approved to look at this for the future, for when we're built out to 400,000+ people. And we talked about an RFP for the resort and the resort pool. And so I guess, I just kind of want to see how that came about from the design. And then with the RFP, when do we anticipate going out for that, for the resort, for the hotel and the pool and all of that piece? Because that's the whole piece that's new to me. I mean, I watched the meetings and saw last year, but I was just thinking, a lot of questions. Number one, I think I heard the mayor say at a meeting or something where, we were going to start building from the out to the in, which I absolutely agree with. Do the whole seawall, culvert, all that stuff first. And then the first gentleman stated that, to open that, we probably don't want to do that until we have phase 1 of the upland done, correct? And then we would go to the phase 2 and 3.
So from the very beginning, administration has always discussed bringing in vendors to run the marina, the parking
P3,
garage,
right?
the
Like-
restaurant.
yeah.
Yeah, well, they're not necessarily a P3, they're more or less, they would be contracts to basically look at running that, because we're not specialists in running high-end, marinas.
We're not in that
We're not
business.
specialists in running restaurants, we're not specialists in running, parking garages, convention centers, ballroom. So remember, this building has now combined the spaces of the Rotino Center as well as
Correct.
the ballroom. And so you're going to have multiple reservations, multiple floors. This has a wedding, banquet with a kitchen in it. Much more flexibility than what we had. And so the idea was, as we get closer to, opening, then we would put out those requests for,
RFPs.
vendors to come in and do that. So at this point, there has been nothing put out on the street for any of those.
So we would build the hotel and the resort, or we would get a P3 to do that, a developer to come in and do that?
There's no hotel in this plan.
There's no. So the resort is just the community center and the pool?
Yes.
Correct.
That's it. Got it. Okay. And then when we talk about the 3%, the PST that we're taking from the schools, you mentioned, Mr. Mason, that we had agreed years ago to give them the 500 kilowatt rebate, to give that to them, to give them revenue. And you said that that money will be replaced with PICO. Will it happen as soon as next year?
No.
It won't. So
The
are they-
100% is in 2028.
Okay, so are we going to hurt them over the next 2 years by taking that money to start this debt service?
I'm not actually taking it up front. It's a timing issue.
Okay,
It's timing, so
Okay.
it's not inclusive of upfront in the first
Okay.
year or the second year.
okay. And then I didn't see the pier, maybe I missed it. Remember, the pier we used to have? We have that still?
That was another one of the discussions that kept layering into this. The pier is under design now. It was looking at a cost-benefit analysis with the engineer. It was determined to be cheaper on a per year full life of ownership to replace the entire pier. So that's also under design.
And is that something that we could open ahead of time to start, having an amenity back, at least a portion of the amenity back for the residents, or no, it would be a safety issue?
Listen, I've been very open about this to the community, and I know I've said it in a couple of these meetings. People want to rush to get this open. When you look at what we need to construct and what we need to build down there, it is years away.
Okay,
And so, every time that you try to phase a piece of it, and if you're putting it out for an RFP for someone to run it, they're going to want to make sure they have beneficial use of their aspect, which means you need parking, you need harbor master building, you need lighting, you need all the amenities. And so what happens is you start getting into business damages. And so the plan has always been to shut the entire park down and construct everything and
Remember.
deliver it all at once. Because as we talked about here, if you do the seawall and you say, okay, well, let's add the marina to it, let's add the docks. Well, if you don't do the harbor master building, there's no upland facilities, there's no pump out facilities.
yeah, I see what you
there's
mean,
no-
it's all tied
right.
together.
Yeah,
All of
there's-
it's tied together.
If you do the ballroom without the parking garage,
Where
then you
they're
have no
gonna park.
place to park.
Right, I
So
understand.
all of this synergy all flows together, and when you start trying to rush one over another, you have general conditions with contractors, you have liability, you're inviting all kinds of issues to that. And so, I understand it. Listen, there have been people that have come to the podium, residents of ours and in town halls and out in the public. Why can't we just do this? Why can't we just do that? And it's a very good question, because the answer is you can, but it does not make good business sense. You would be spending money to have it sit there as opposed to accomplishing it all at once. And listen, I'm not the contractor. Our contractors have been asked this question. Can we phase this? Can we phase that? Sure. Then you're moving around fences, you're inviting liability, you're extending general the project takes longer. We can do anything. It just costs time and money.
Right, and the last rendition plans, those were already approved? In other words, we're committed to that plan? That
Yeah,
rendition?
beyond approved, we're in design.
Gotcha.
We're built, yep.
Okay, let me see if I have any other questions. Oh, did we get any insurance money? Do we get any of that from like the boathouse or from tearing down the yacht club building?
So we did get some insurance proceeds, I think, for the repair of the ballroom. It was 50 or 80.
I think she's talking about just the boathouse.
Everything,
If there
no,
was-
the
Oh,
boathouse-
the boathouse,
and the ballroom.
the boathouse, we subsumed those in the new deal
Right.
that we did with them. So
Okay.
it's being reinvested into a building
Into
for
the
us.
building, and then what
As,
about
as
the,
far as Ian is concerned,
I
and
know.
anything that happened with Ian, yes, we did get some insurance funds, but we're not talking about big dollars here.
okay, I just wanted to clarify
Now,
that,
yes,
if I'm asked.
yeah.
And then,
no worries. And we also have some FEMA funds that have also been coming in.
okay,
We have the 50% rule that we're working through FEMA with. Both the boat dock, our goal is actually to try to have it fully funded. So, we're doing what we can right now.
so, and we plan on utilizing those funds, Mr. Mason, if possible.
Oh, absolutely.
To fund
They're-
that, okay.
Yeah, that is where they're located at. We're not using anything else.
Okay.
We will apply all of those funds back into that. But on a $225 million project, it's less than $1 million.
Okay, and yeah, I mean, if you could have the drawings, if you don't have all of them today, that's fine, I just want to see them, just so that I'm able to have talking points when I'm asked by my constituents.
While he gets the Elmo
Okay.
fired up, let me talk about the insurance proceeds from the boathouse. So the language in the contract preceding the one that we just voted on said if the building was not going to be rebuilt, our building, they were insuring our asset. And so if we chose not to rebuild it, then we would have taken those
Sure.
insurance proceeds into the general fund for a legally appropriate use. But that's not the choice we chose. We chose to rebuild it, but bigger and better and to new code. And so those proceeds in that agreement went back into the capital to build the new building.
Right, and so then but I guess what I'm saying, I guess what Mr. Mason is saying, with the potential FEMA dollars and the small amount of maybe insurance money we got because of the ballroom, we can use those funds to offset some of the costs later on. Yeah?
Or the design now.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, I just think that's an important thing, and when we have that number, to be able to say that would be helpful to make us aware. Thank you, Mayor.
Councilmember Kilrain?
Yeah, couple of things, more than a couple. The fact that we're going to go back and look at the history, I think is important, but only for the fact that I think it helps build credibility as to how we got here and resident support, I think, because I think when they understand the process and the tortured path we went through to get to this point, I think there'll be some better understanding of why the number gave us sticker shock. And that's the first time I really saw a solid engineering projection on this. So maybe there was one before. I know we were throwing around over $100 million, but the 2.25 was the first time I really saw a hard number on it. I think that it's important that we deal with the circumstances as they are today and not like we wish they were or had been. And, I've said this before, I think it's very important that we manage this process in a way that allows us to start to collapse the project into a lump in which we produce revenue streams contiguous with being able to do the construction. And if you think about that, it's smart business to go ahead and do the seawall. You won't have the boathouse or anything else unless you start that process. That generates revenue stream coming up from the boathouse. And then to do as little expenditure past that point so that we don't burden residents with a tax burden. Go ahead, City Manager.
In the new agreement with the boathouse, there has to be 150 parking spaces
Okay.
and all of the utilities. So even in that agreement, the boathouse said, I'm not going to be forced to put
Okay.
5 million, 6 million into the ground and have nothing available. So everything is following the same trajectory.
Okay, and along that line, then whatever is required to make that system happen. And then look, as you were discussing, to go with the marina after that as a phase two. But then, if you think about looking at, we're really locking ourselves into tying up the general fund finances for a long period of time here with nothing else but this project. So it doesn't give us a whole lot of flexibility with other things. And I would propose that we got a really serious look at a P3 that can bring forth both commercial capability and capacity to get financing, such that we don't have to manage the whole project in a manner that produces revenue at the same time as the construction. I don't know how we could do that without a P3 partner, bring in all of that financial capability and wherewithal. So I would suggest maybe that we either actively pursue a P3 for putting all the back end together, and or just starting out the process, continue to slow roll that forward until we can get a better glimpse of what it's going to look like, and then put out for a P3. But if we're talking pretty big numbers here on debt service, and I think that Mr. Mason has done a great job in putting together a program in which we could fund that self-sufficiently, but that's still going to be a significant tax burden. And if you're talking like the commercial paper running anywhere to cover that 28 to 43 million, that's still a big bite out of the general fund that we're going to have to do, and it's going to be significant. So and again, you have to ask yourself, do we really want to go with this larger scope of the project? I'm all for going with the large scope and looking at the larger population. But I think that we'd be smart to look for a P3 that has a financial wherewithal, and they can bring together the experts in restaurant operation and running the parking lot and the marina and all of that stuff. So that's where my head's at right now. Just trying to ameliorate the impact of tax burden on the residents and do a long-term lease. I mean, we can do a very long-term lease so that those P3 partners can get paid back in a reasonable fashion, but also bring the investment to us that we don't have to pull everything out of our pockets. So just thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. Councilmember Kadook?
Thank you, Mayor. First, to answer Mark's question, I'm personally good with moving forward with the seawall, marina, and docks. Yes, I'm good with seeing the history of the yacht club and how we got here. And is the pier in the upland or marine work? It said that it was under design, but no one specified where it was.
So the fishing pier is completely separate from this portion of the project. We chose to go that route just because the permitting was going to be a little bit easier if we just tried to get the permit.
Sorry,
for
I
that.
don't mean to interrupt, but it's nowhere in here then?
It's not included in that 225.
So it's not included in the 225? Okay. Also, once the seawall, marina, and docks are then, and Mr. City Manager, you kind of touched on this, but would it be possible, I know that this is now impacting the project, but would it be possible to have a temporary trailer there for like marine operations at that point to start generating revenue?
I'm sorry, I was trying to write down some of the things you were in favor for. What was I heard the last part, but what were you trying to
Marine
tie it
operations,
back
if we did the seawall, marina, and docks, could we then do marine operations there to start generating revenue?
Mark, can you pull up the slide that shows the difference between the plan with the marina and the plan without the marina? The finance was like 35 to
Oh, yes.
with the annual debt service?
So this was the original GMP. This had both of them. The one thing that, I mean, part of this is
It's not on the
that,
screen.
oh, I'm sorry.
That's
Just
not,
you.
that's not him, that's in the back.
Yeah, that's not me.
That was you.
There you go. No, that's not it.
Well,
That's the wrong one.
That's fine. So this plan,
There you go. Sorry, this is it.
so this one requires the 35 million with a debt service of 3 million. What's the next one?
2.2. Right.
Yeah, one of the things that this doesn't have in doing this, it doesn't have the utilities. So that, part of the civil work still needs to be done. This is the marine package with,
So that's the issue is you have to get some of the upland stuff in place in order to service, in order to make those docks leasable, right? I mean, and here's another thing that, I know we said in the beginning, and, I'm gonna state it again. The plan for this marina is not what was there. So we are not talking about a 20-foot sailboat. Now, I know those people were relocated, we gave them that was another issue, we gave them eviction letters, you gotta go. The plan is not to bring those type of vessels back. That was not the design intent, that was not the goal. The goal here is much larger vessels bringing much higher rents into this marina. Because the idea is to try to get that, but that clientele that's coming into that type of marina needs upland services, which is in the harbor master building. So you need shower facilities, you need washer and dryers, you need a room to relax. So just by throwing the marina there, sure, we could do that, and just so you have an idea of the estimated cost, but you're not going to be able to bring the type of rents in or leases in because you're not going to have the upland facilities for them to go to. They'll travel another half an hour upriver or out somewhere, within this general vicinity to get those amenities.
Okay, and Mark, carrying this type of debt, 28 million to 43 million, let's just go with 43 million, for the next 4 years or more, because we know projects usually take a little bit longer, how does that impact our ability to borrow on anything else that we need to do in this city,
I expect there to be some constrictions in the future.
including with our UEP?
Not with the UEP side, that's usually funded, associated with the utilities.
Okay,
And so this is, more governmental debt type, and it's not utility debt, so it's not likely to have much of an impact on the utility side.
so different type of infrastructure bank?
I'm sorry?
Is it a different type of infrastructure bank that you're
No,
borrowing
it's-
from? Like, I don't understand how it wouldn't impact. I would assume that we, as the city, are just the borrower in general, so I don't understand how there would be a different debt.
Okay, so the city is a borrower in general, but it has utility borrowing, it has a separate structure associated with utility borrowing, and then it has governmental borrowing, and under governmental borrowing, you can be borrowing for a number of different things,
And this
not
is
least of
that?
which this is. So there is a bifurcation between the two. I have different ratings associated with utilities, I have different ratings associated with governmental type debt.
And this falls in the governmental type debt.
Correct.
So if we ever wanted to build a $40 million performing arts hall, we would be restricted by doing so because of this governmental debt.
If I was going to be borrowing money, yes.
Okay, thank you.
Councilmember Steinke.
Thank you, Mayor. And I appreciate, as far as we've broken this down, for decision-making, I too would speak in favor of moving forward with the seawalls. Before anything happens, the seawall's got to be replaced. So I would say let's get ourselves started on that as quickly as we can. As it relates to, updates and availability of information about the yacht club, on our website, there's a great place there that everyone go to for those that are listening. When you go to capecoral.org, there is a button that says project updates. If you click on that button, the Yacht Club Community Park is right there as an item you can select. And if you hit that, it'll take you through the whole history of where this all came from. Very similar, I have an expanded version of what we've seen here as far as, hey, where have we come from and why are we where we are, and here's what's going on, and here's what's happening with permits and so on and so forth. So there's a wealth of information there, very, very transparent in what's been going on there and what will happen as we move forward. One question that I had was, we've talked about the pier a couple times. We made the decision to replace it. We've gone in for permitting to get the permits required to get the pier rebuilt. In the timing of all this, we've already identified that the money required for that is not in any of this, but timing-wise, when will that pier be built?
Will likely be under construction with either the seawall or the other components of this, and it would just be an amendment to that contract.
Okay, so to some degree then, the pier will be there, but we won't have great accessibility to the pier for a while? Is that, when you say, hey, this is going to be closed for a number of years, if I'm walking along the beach, am I going to be able to go out on that pier before all this is completed?
I don't see so. Not based on my understanding of the project progression and the accomplishment of this. That pier isn't even finished, we're not even at 100% design, correct, right?
We're just over 90%.
Yeah, so, I mean, it's not even at full design yet. That was the last decision that you all made, was to, so the pier is like the tail of the project.
Okay, well, I guess I stand corrected, but I thought we had the decision of do we fix it, do we replace it? If we replace it, then, and we chose to replace it based on the financial underpinnings of it. And I thought then it was, okay, so Molly bar the door, let's do what we have to do to replace the pier.
That is
And put it in
correct.
place.
Well, it started off with, the initial directive was, let's get the pier open as quick as possible. And we were asked to bring a presentation to you all on the pier. And in that, when we did a life cycle cost benefit analysis, it was not in the best interest of our revenue to just do the repair. That's where we started. That's not, we wound up with completely new pier, redesign, new codes, and that's what we're doing now.
Right, and so it would seem that that is further along than the rest of this entire project.
I mean, potentially. It is in for review right now with the Army Corps. Those reviews right now are taking extremely long time, but.
We're working on that, we're gonna talk about that a little bit later. I'm actively involved in that one too. But it would just seem to me if someone walking along the beach could go out on the pier before they're able to go in and have a wedding in our new facility, I think that might be pleasing to the residents to be able to actually use the pier when the pier is completed, if the pier can be completed ASAP.
So now that I understand what you're saying seawall is under construction, the beach is still open, and if we can get the contract for the pier issued to get that built before we start construction on the whole, is that a possibility? Yes. Probability? I don't know.
That's a possibility that I would certainly be in favor of.
I'm following you now.
To enable the citizens to enjoy sunsets, to be able to walk from and fish from the pier. If we can do it, I would need to get really, really strong reasons why we shouldn't do it. So.
The only reason, again, would be because of the construction of the project. The upland work really only, we already have, the long lead time on the, starting the upland was the marine permit, which we have, and it sounds like we're a couple more, and we're gonna move forward with the seawall. From there, as soon as the upland work is done, it goes into permitting for building and site.
Get it? Okay.
So if we're still waiting 6, 7, 8, 9 more months on the core, you see, that's why I'm saying is it possible? Yes. Probability, that's always a toss-up with the core.
Okay. And then the other, when we look at these dollars, what a magnificent facility this would be, and we've certainly gotten feedback from residents say we don't need that. Basically, just leave it as an open park and save the money. I broke it down, and I'm sure I'm not totally accurate, but for the sake of today, yeah, if it's $225 million, and we have 220,000 residents, and that doesn't take into account any growth in population that would also be funding this. But if it were paid for cash, and we've all gone in to buy cars and houses, and do I pay cash or do I put it on payments or whatever the case may be, if we paid for this one with cash, we need a check for $2,343 per current resident. We can't put up a quarter of a screen cage on a house for $2,343. So when we look at the overall impact of what our residents would have and what our visitors would be attracted to, and you look at it that way, I think it's a pretty good value for the city to become another beacon of our city, as the old yacht club was. If you look at the financing of it as it's been presented to us with the annual debt service, and you divide up that debt service, and I'm not sure a number, you came up with 40-some million?
4.4 million.
Yeah, I'm not sure where they added up. I took the 14.295, the 6.9, the 2.64. When I added all those up, I came up with a little bit of a different number, but it worked out to about $12.50 a month. So I think the magnitude of the project certainly visually is overwhelming, and the absolute numbers, the 225 million, quite shocking, potentially overwhelming. The annual debt service, but when you do the math and you consider, keeping it simple down to buying the car, the extra $12 a month for that new car is pretty nice. And so I would just ask, as we go through this process, that we all consider the tremendous addition this is to our city, the crown jewel that it will become, as there was a crown jewel there before. And we're not just dealing with the 10,000 residents that used to be served by the facility that was there. We're now dealing with 220,000, soon to be 350,000, soon to be 400,000. That will be able to, be very proud of this. So any way that we can get it done quicker, any way that we can do it more effectively, certainly in favor of a P3. I don't think any one of our departments wants to be in charge of setting up weddings and collecting rents from the folks that are in the yacht basin there. So I definitely in favor of P3. And if we bring a P3 in, all these numbers change, only for the better. Ultimately, I think what you're looking for today is, should we get these seawall started? And absolutely yes.
Councilmember Lehman?
Yeah. Mr. Mason, on page 10, those numbers.
Yep.
Parking garage service charges, a little high on that revenue, isn't it? I mean, it just seems like it doesn't fit with, between the boat docking service charges, the boathouse revenue, and the community center and pool fees and charges. That number seems so high. Why?
Parking garage is 4 stories and has 798 parking spaces. We assumed a $3 fee per hour. Taking that into account and assuming that we're going to have it occupied 40% of the time, this is what the annual amount would be.
Oh, okay. All right, thank you. Thank you, sir.
Yeah, I guess I'll jump in here real quick. Can we go to Slide 6, if we could, please. And while you're pulling that up, my understanding, Mr. City Manager, Boathouse is looking anywhere from an 18 to 24-month process and hopefully getting that particular facility open. And I know as a part of that agreement, and you had mentioned it earlier, we are supposed to be able to provide about 150 parking spaces. So I guess my question is there some latitude there as far as the construction period? Because it sounds like the boathouse will be up and running probably before anything down there.
Well, if you remember, we have an interim phase, and they're also in design now, just like we've been designing, and then after design, they have to permit, and then they have to do construction.
Right. So just for argument's sake, say they're, next 6 months, they're in permitting, and it's an 18-month construction period, so that's 2 years. And I think that's a possibility. I mean, I think that's, if they can adhere to that type of a schedule, they'll be doing good. I think that's probably the soonest that I could see them opening, but let's just go with that. They're going to be open in 2 years. Are we going to be able to provide parking? Because as we all know, if we can't get the people in there, they're not going to make it, and we're not going to generate any revenue.
Well, that's why we have to start the seawall as soon as possible, because the parking garage cannot even start until the seawall's done.
Right. So that was a concern. If you could put slide 6 back open. The other concern that I had was, and I'm not sure how this phased into projects. I do agree we have to, begin the seawalls. Quite frankly, if we got the permit back in April, I was hoping we were started already. So I'm hoping that we can get that part of the project started sooner rather than later. So I definitely think that's the foundation of this project. We can't do anything until the seawalls are done. So to me, moving forward, will you guys like clicking that slide 6 off? If you could put that slide 6, there we go. One of the concerns that I do have is, and I understand waiting on the dockage. You don't want to build something that sits there for 3 years. And a lot of the amenities that go along with these docks, showers, pump out stations, and a variety of other amenities are in our upland construction. So it's going to be tough to be able to rent some of those slips not having those amenities. So I understand maybe holding off a little bit on that. One of the concerns that I do have is if you look at this picture here and some of our previous discussions, if you look in the upper left-hand corner of that particular picture, we put finger docks in mainly for accessibility from the waterways to come into the boathouse and eventually the other amenities. So I don't know if that's something that we may be able to look at and only put that section of the dockage in at some point, maybe even before the rest of it, just to have that accessibility, knowing here in about maybe 2 years, the boathouse is maybe opening. Maybe that's something that we look at, sometime later on, maybe when we have a little more of a definitive schedule from the boathouse as far as when the permits are issued, maybe at that point take a look at this. But that may be something we may want to contemplate. What I'd hate to happen is the boathouse is open. The parking garage isn't going to be completed, probably. There's going to be limited accessibility with parking because of the construction project being so large, and then not having any waterway access also. So just a concern that I have that maybe we can address someone later on when we have a little more of a definitive timeline for the boathouse and when they'll be up and running. But as far as your ask today, 100%, let's get going on the construction of the seawalls. And my recommendation would probably be to make sure we start down near the boathouse somewhere with the construction of the seawalls, to make sure that's completed by the time they're ready to get started here in 6 or 8 months or whatever the case may be. But that'll be up to the project manager to work that out. But, so I think that gives you the direction from me. Councilmember Long.
Thank you, Mayor. Yeah, I guess just getting back to the asks of the day, so to speak, and starting with the seawalls as far as the priority and the phasing. I guess, as far as the decisions that are made here today, does that affect the outcome or any modifications to the Army Corps permit?
No. So the Army Corps permit was for the total scope of the work, which includes all the floating docks and all the finger piers. And then we have, that permit is good for 5 years. So if we do this, if we do it and break it up and we do the seawall and then do that, that's fine. So it's not like completing the seawall and then not having done the marine, that permit would go invalid or anything.
Okay, so I guess the reason I ask is getting back to the mayor's point, as far as the timeline, with the permit being issued in April. Were we waiting on this meeting to determine when we get out those RFPs so that we can start work on that project? I mean,
No, we already, so when we got the permit, we went out to our contractor, got the GMP, and then when we got that in and saw the amount of, the cost for that, all the work under that permit, and realized that we would not be generating enough revenue to sustain the debt service, we then went back to them. And so we've been working with them the whole time, trying to get to a point where we can make a solid recommendation to you, which is today, just do the seawall and a funding plan for that. 'Cause, this is not in the budget.
sure.
So that's why, as we were going through the budget process, we were also trying to put together funding plans for what we're looking at, the whole scope of the marina permit as well as upland. You know, we're working both in tandem. And so we didn't see a path forward through the budget to do all, and so that's why we said, okay, we need to reduce the scope for phase 1 so that we can at least get the basis of the project going.
Yeah, I guess my hope was kind of like the mayor's with regards to the project, to kind of go full circle at the beginning of this when you asked for some of the new council members and how we got here. The idea at that point in time was how we got here while we were waiting on the permit. And then we finally get the permit, and now we're starting to have discussions that frankly we probably could have had or should have had before then. So that's part of the reason how we got here. The other reason how we got here, you've seen a little bit of it today. So you get the 12 million, then you get the 30 million, then you get the 120 million, then you get the 250 million. Oh, by the way, that doesn't include the pier, that doesn't include the utility. So the next meeting, who knows what it's going to be. So that's how we got here. And at that point, that's where I start to kind of hesitate a little bit as far as the path forward, at least as a fully, the project that's fully done by us. So either we bring in partners or we rally or reduce the scope. But, you know, for a municipality to take on a project like this, a $250 to $300 million construction project, when there's really not a whole bunch of vertical, if you brought this into any private sector, they'd laugh you out of the room as far as the return on investment and the revenue. And I understand, you know, the old shtick that, oh, it's an amenity and it's not supposed to make money, but it's sure as hell not supposed to lose money to this magnitude. And so for me, I've got some pretty significant reservations with the new cost. So those, as far as me going forward, I'd either want to significantly limit the scope to get that price down, or bring in a partner that's willing to bear some of that burden. And that's where I'm at. But start the seawall. The seawall needs done anyways. Back to my first point. Thank you.
When we go over the history, what I've asked staff to do is bring in the subcomponent costs. So for example, the garage, the harbor master building, the marina component, the resort pool, the ballroom. And so when we start looking at what stacks up to the 225, if we start talking about de-scoping, then it's okay, what do we want to reduce the size of the pool? Do we want to reduce, take a floor off of the parking garage? Do we want, and so we can start to understand, what are we talking about? Where are the funds? What are the costs of each of the components?
Sure, and I appreciate that, and it's for sure going to be needed. But then at that point, when when you're really taking enough meat off the bone to make it worthwhile, you're also leaving a big void in a project that kind of relies on the synergy of it all together. So then maybe back to the drawing board, which I would hate to think. But that's just where I'm at as far as the cost and the scope. Thank you.
Real quickly, before I go to Councilmember Duke, I forgot to mention in my presentation about the P3 possibilities. I think that if we could find or partner in the private sector for this project, I think would be a win-win for everyone involved. And I think that if we can offset those expenses where we're not putting the burden on the taxpayer and we're still providing the same type of an amenity, to me, that's a no-brainer. So I would definitely would like to see us explore some type of a partnership with this particular project, because as Mr. Mason had mentioned, the project is so large, and because the cost of construction over the last three years or so has really grown exponentially. That's why this project has really morphed into the dollar amount, is mainly because of the cost of construction over the last 3 years or so. So if that means we have to bring in a partner where we could still achieve the same result, but with less of a burden on our taxpayers, to me, we would be foolish not to explore that opportunity while we're moving forward and getting this project to fruition. Councilmember Kadook, sorry to take your time there.
No, thank you. You kind of nailed everything I was going to say. When I think about this, I think about the north side of Cape Coral specifically, and another council member stated, it's $12.50 per month per resident, but on top of the 40 grand that we're getting hit with in the north for an amenity that we have to drive 30 minutes to use. So unless we're going to have a P3 partner, or in 2028, we put this on the ballot for its own specific go bond, and then we let the voters decide, we really need to scope back, in my humble opinion. Thank you.
Councilmember Laster.
Yes, I agree. Councilmember Long, I agree with you. And yes, Councilmember Kadook, you're correct. And Mayor, you're correct. The scope of this project is large, and I think that's what everyone's concern is, especially now, even though we're planning for the future with the way our current economy is. Is it possible for us to just lease the land and then find a P3, or turn it, make it green and then find a partner? Is it possible for us to do that? It is? Then I would love to. I think, Mayor, you're right. We said it all before. That's why I said when I first spoke about a P3, when are we going out for RFP? Because in my opinion, this needs to be done. I don't want this burden on our taxpayers either. And to Councilmember Kadook's point, there's other priorities, obviously, to each one of us in our district. I mean, my own selfishness is the old golf course. So how is this going to affect all? It's like a trickle down, right? And then if you look at, infrastructure and UEP, in my opinion, will always be top priority. So, I think we need to really, yes, do the seawalls, but scale this back and figure out a way how we can maybe do a land lease and have somebody come in and do the development. That would be my recommendation, because I agree with the mayor. I don't think this is right for our taxpayers. Thank you, Mayor.
Councilmember Steinke.
Thank you, Mayor. With regard to the comment earlier about potentially having those docks there by the boathouse to allow for aquatic access to the boathouse, the boathouse is actually going to be the ones dispensing fuel. Is that not true? Is that not part of their? So as part of this, the replacement of the fuel tanks is in there. Is that not true?
Upland one.
There's Upland one.
So if in fact, because originally in the original GMP, marina fueling was included in that, I believe. I see it listed there on slide 4. And then in the revised package, it's not there anymore. And then it's moved to Upland Phase 1. And so if we were going to be considering doing that dock section as the seawall is completed down by where the boathouse will be, would we need to move that fuel tank replacement up in the process if we were to consider putting in those docks down by the boathouse?
Just a- John, or contractor, I mean,
Yeah, I mean, if we're going to be wheeling down the GMP, the marine GMP, to get rid of the docks themselves and the fuel tanks, that was a mechanism basically to reduce this to a more manageable cost for the upfront portion. But the upland phase one, you would want to get those fuel docks in as soon as you can, obviously to open up that revenue stream for them to be able to serve fuel up there at the docks.
Because I would think to do that, the fuel docks that are there right now, those are going to have to go away. And so to come in and put the fuel tanks there before there's a place for the vessels to come up and get their fuel, kind of senseless. To bring put the docks there without the fuel being able to get them done would be kind of senseless. Pretty much, you have to do them both at the same time, I would think.
Yes, that's correct.
So if we do go down that road of, okay, so we're not doing the docks through the entire marina, if we're gonna just do accessibility docks for the boathouse, then we need to tie that fuel tank replacement in to that part of the, if it's a micro phase, if you will, we'd have to move those in there and have those in at the same time when we get those docks open, I would think. And that's, and I said it minorly, and let me say it majorly. I absolutely believe there should be a P3 involved here to bring the cost down to the citizens. And the sooner we can get that on the street, the better. Thank you.
Councilmember Kilrain.
Yeah, I just want to come back and emphasize two more points about the P3 and why I think it's a very good idea. Number one, the cost of this project is never going to be cheaper than it would be to build it today. So to the extent that a P3 partner could come in and accelerate that, not only would he bring the financial capabilities, but probably be able to do it in a more accelerated manner and do it maybe through a project management program, which would be most efficient in moving the thing forward in cost. That cuts out a lot of the escalation on this, because if we're talking 4 or 5 years down the road until we can turn this thing around, just by reducing that by a year would be significant cost saving, just from an escalation standpoint. So I think that all of the efficiencies involved in the P3 and just making sense and not burning our residents with the tax base, it's just a strong signal that that's where we need to be headed. So, and again, Mr. Mason, I appreciate your all the effort that you put into looking at self-sufficiency on this, but I think that we'd be best off by looking for another alternative there, and let's spare those other great thoughts about how to get money forward for some other projects we may want to look at in the future. So thank you.
I understand. My feelings aren't hurt.
Seeing no other lights on, just a quick question for our city attorney. When you look at the P3 regulations, as far as the statute's concerned, my understanding, and please correct me if I'm wrong, if these facilities are going to be ours, then we can move forward with some type of a P3 type process. If I heard today, as far as on land lease, which in my opinion is probably a different mechanism than a P3, are they different? And if so, I guess my question is, it sounds like a majority of council is wanting to move in that direction, or at least look at the viable option if that is even available to us. So I guess my question is, what needs to happen to be considered a P3? Do we have to own that property afterwards? Land lease, if you have like a 99-year land lease, I think that's a whole different mechanism. So I guess that's my first question.
So we're using P3 interchangeably and probably not appropriately. And that's kind of the problem that I'm hearing. So let me see if I can clear this up. under the public-private partnership statute, there is a mechanism for an unsolicited proposal for whatever it is that they're going to unsolicitedly propose to the city of Cape Coral, right? That could be the entire yacht club area, it could be a portion of the yacht club area, I just do not know, and you're sending out a message right now to the world, okay? So it could be a variation of that if there's some developer out there or contractor that will submit an unsolicited P3, and you are saying that you are interested in that. There's another mechanism by way of which we actually put it out on the street and asking for someone to bid on this specific project with certain enhancements in the sense of their ability to operate, whether it's the parking garage, whether or not it's the marine store, whether or not it's the marina itself, where there would be a sharing of costs because you're trying to minimize the total financial burden associated with the entire project, which is presently at 225 approximately. So there's a number of different things that are in play. It's just a matter of where this council wants to go in the sense of the relationship with a private operator and or builder. Does that make sense?
Yeah, and I mean, I just look at some of the other projects and development agreements that we've entered into, and you know, I think for me personally, and if we want to direct staff to explore these options, I think now is the opportunity to do that. And whatever the mechanisms that we utilize, whether it's a P3 or a land lease, and we put that out on the street, while we're going through this process, we still have some design to finish up on, and you know, then we have to apply for, you know, all the permitting and that sort. But while we're doing that, what I don't want to happen is we get like the permits in April, and I know we've been doing some things between April and today, but what I don't want to do is go through all this process, and we're a year from now, we're sitting here talking about the same thing. I think we can drive down a parallel street and keep this motion going, but also explore whatever type of opportunities are out there for us. And then at some point, once we know all the data, the opportunities that may or may not be there, then we can decide, yeah, do we want to move forward? Do we want to scale it back? How much is it going to cost? You know, and then we can make those decisions. But I think we have to direct staff to move forward into the private sector to see if there's an interest of anyone out there who may want to partner with us in some form or fashion. That's what I think the direction that we should also today be giving staff. Do we want to bear the whole burden of the financial aspects, knowing that we're at 225 plus? Because it's not 225. I guarantee you, between the pier, all the other, we'll be closer to 300. And, you know, so to me, that's where I'm at. I think that we need to direct staff to broaden their approach and look at some private type of opportunities along with what we have here. And they may come in and say, hey, you know, this is great, but we want to add that. I know we talked about a second restaurant down here. There may be some other opportunities that somebody may come before us and say, hey, look, we'll do this, but we want X. We don't know. But I think it would be a disservice if we don't at least explore those opportunities. Councilmember Kilgore.
Yeah, I'm exactly on the same page as you are. And basically, I think that setting up a leasing arrangement, we're going to be making an investment in this, in the seawall and some of the upland stuff that goes along with it, to the tune of, you know, 24, 25 million. And if you look at the construction of some of those relationships, that could be our seed into the game and get the whole darn thing started. So that wouldn't be any more of a burden to pursue that other alternative on the residents currently for a period of time. So I'm right on the same page with you. Thank you.
Councilmember Steinke?
Thank you. Yeah, a concern I have, and maybe just a clarification, as it relates to a land lease. I mean, this is one of many parks we have in our city, and I don't know if we necessarily want to set a precedent that we will lease out one of our parks. And how far down the road are we with design on this? Are we at 60%? 60%, right?
Between 90 and 100%.
90.
So between 90 and 100%. If we look at a land lease, that's where somebody else comes in and goes, well, I don't want to put that there.
Well, I think
Let me show you what I want to put there.
In a development agreement, I think you could articulate it. We've already, like, I agree with you. I don't want to start over. Don't get me wrong. What I want to say is, this is what we want to do. If they maybe want to enhance it a little bit or add to it, it's a possibility. But I think we should just explore the options of this is what we want to do, and see if there's anybody out there that wants to partner with us in some form or fashion.
Yeah, the typical, P3 or, concessionaire agreement with the concessionaire, bringing, their wallet to the game. I think that's where we need to go, not just a land lease and, we got to start all over again. I don't think that's the way to go.
Yeah. If I might, Mayor, I think I was using the term lease in trying to articulate a long-term or relationship. And that relationship doesn't mean in giving up ownership or anything. It means giving the partner a viable financial return over a longer period of time, so it makes sense for him to bring in this kind of capital money. That's where my head was.
And to add to what Councilmember Kilraid said, we wouldn't be entering into a long-term lease of our premises. What we would probably be entering into, depending on the solicitation, is a long-term operational agreement, and we would probably break that up depending on who would come forward. An operational agreement for the marine, an operational agreement for the parking garage, and also for whatever other components, including the ballroom, right? So in my experience, normally you would have an operator that will operate that on our behalf, and they would be receiving a portion of the revenues, therefore their investment in the actual total project. That's normally how it would be accomplished, by way of a statutory public-private partnership, whether it's unsolicited or whether or not we solicit it under this statutory provision, where those buildings and all that infrastructure will ultimately become ours. We're just going to give them the ability to recoup their investment.
Okay.
Like it.
All right.
Thank you.
Councilmember Lastra?
I'm sorry, Mayor, just to clarify, Councilmember Steinke, when you talk about leasing a park, I mean, weren't we going to do a P3 lease with trailer, with food trucks at JC Park? Or, I mean, I know that we still own the park, but to me, I mean, if we're leasing some of the land or all of it, I mean, we kind of did the same thing at JC Park with pieces of it. I'm just asking for clarification.
And I can address, that was not a lease, that was a
Okay.
concessionaire
So-
agreement to allow them to operate. They had
Understood.
no rights to the ground. They only
Okay.
had the right, they only had the license to operate in a limited area within the park.
Which is the same thing we could do at this park, should we go down the road of the P3 before we get this in, so that we, the taxpayers, don't pay for all this, correct? It'd be the same,
It'll be something similar depending on the gravity of the investment that they
Gotcha.
do and how it is that they're planning on operating the entire yacht club, because there are so many different components. Looking at it right now, I don't know that we will have one global operator that will manage
All of it?
Correct. And I couldn't really say that because we don't know what may be out there and what's available to us. There may be someone that is a conglomerate that will bring in one that will operate all components of that, or they may come in with separate proposals for all that under one umbrella. That remains to be seen. The real question is whether or not you want to move forward within an affirmative solicitation. I know we're not there yet, and that's not why we're here, or allow someone who has now heard you all and it looks like we're receptive to receiving an unsolicited proposal under the statutory provision.
Oh, okay, I think I understand now. I get the difference. Thank you.
Yeah, I think you got the consensus, Mr. City Manager, on the seawall. What I haven't heard a consensus.
I haven't heard from, I'm just kidding. I was going to say Donnell, but he's not here.
Maybe you could phone a friend, find out from him.
I will, just like I've said before, when Councilwoman Kaduka is out, I will get with Councilmember Donnell. But clearly, I see there is support for Phase 1 Marine, and it is very clear here that we want to discuss some type of P3, whether it be solicited or so. It's almost 4 o'clock. I mean, I could put together, I mean, there's all different ways to do that. I mean, we've already discussed several options, but the easiest thing really is either to do an RFI, request for interest, to see who's out there and kind of understand what they may offer, or you can go right into a full-blown competitive solicitation of an RFP.
So why don't we go down the line and see what the council has a desire to do? Because I think that's important today, to try to get that at least started, if we're going to kind of look at that, whether it's a RFP, RFI, whether it's a P3, a land lease. I heard a lot of different things here today. But, to me, if you don't ask, you don't know. So I think I think it's important at a project this size. I think we have a duty to at least ask. So we'll start with Councilman.
Yeah, I'm open to any and all, really. Right now, moving forward with just the seawall, and then I do think going forward, we should have this on a CAL. I mean, to keep discussing it and where we're gonna go and who's bitten and where we're at with everything. I mean, it's a large project. We can't put this on our taxpayers. Or if we did, we should do it as a go bond on the ballot where they vote for it.
Yes.
Council members, thank you.
I would be more in favor of an RFI than an RFP. An RFP we would already be specifying what we want them to bid on, so to speak, with an RFI. And correct me if I'm wrong, with an RFI, we could get those just individual component people coming forward and saying, hey, I'd be interested in doing, if I could just do the marina, I'd be interested in just doing the marina. Or, if someone comes through and says, hey, we're parking garage experts, I'd like to do the parking garage. But if we go out for RFP, then we're saying, here's the whole kit and caboodle, and this is what we want somebody to come in and do. I'd kind of like to just hear, what would you be interested in? So I'm more in favor of an RFI.
And as part of that, I think that I can probably, and I'll get with the city manager, also declare this a qualifying project under the statute. That will also provide an avenue for people to submit unsolicited proposals as well. I think you probably want to cast a wide net, if I'm not mistaken, right? So that gives you the most leverage and ability to negotiate. So in my opinion, I will verify that from the legal perspective, but right now I do believe that all of that is a qualifying project with the exception of the boathouse, which we already have a separate agreement as well. So upon that declaration, there's the ability to travel under the public-private statute as well. And there's nothing wrong with going 2 different routes.
As far as I'm concerned, we put a lot of work into this project already. I don't want to waste that work. I don't want to spend the time redoing it again. So I'm all with going for an RFI. It has to be based on, as our city attorney just mentioned, we're making an investment in this. We're looking for them to bring forth a lot more in both investment and acceleration of the construction and also operations. So that would be the components that I'd be looking for in it. So, and just open it up from there. Thank you, Mayor.
Yeah, I guess for me, it's see what's out there and see if there's any interest. Sure, I guess it would be the best to find one person to do the whole thing, but that may not be realistic. You have people that have expertise in a variety of areas. There's still a section of land on this particular area, this property, that was for a second restaurant. It could be used for a multitude of things, I guess. So putting out an official solicitation, whether it's RFP or RFI, a dual approach where you do both. It doesn't really matter to me, but just to see what type of interest is out there. I think, as the city attorney said, throw that wide net out and see what we get. And then, once we have a little more of a definitive answer, then we'll come back and have a discussion to see what we could do. What I don't want to do is start over. We've got a lot of money, a lot of time tied up in this. Would I be open to some additional enhancements if they could be made, at their expense? Possibly. But I think we had the basis, the foundation of what we want this project to look like. I don't want to go in there and start over, so they would have to, hey, this is what we want to do. Do you want to partner with us? So that would be my suggestion. Councilmember Long?
I guess, I know you kind of touched about time on the street, but how long is this fishing expedition anticipated to take?
Depends on how big your fishing pole is.
That's why I'm waiting to choose my
I was
pole.
going to say, we have all the pieces in place, so it's putting together a scope, probably, not too long to put together a scope, because all the pieces are already here.
What's that define?
Mine
We have
not too long
we
is
have
way
a
different
picture,
than the
we have
government's not too
we have
long.
everything that we need.
What was
So
that, I'm sorry?
30 days,
He said my definition.
30 days to get it out on the street, probably 30 days after
Another
that,
30.
45 days. We come back in January, have a talk.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, as open as you can make it, reasonably without.
But as far as the GMP for the seawalls are concerned, that'll be probably the first meeting in November.
Okay. Yeah, RFI, perfect world, someone would come in and assist with the whole thing, but I understand the complexities of it, so I would delegate that to whatever you guys come up with, depending on the consortium here.
Yes, wide net. I agree. I think whatever we can get to take this burden off of us would be smart. Thank you.
All right, Mr. City Manager, does that give you some direction?
Yes, sir, thank you.
All righty. All right, looks like we got one last thing on the agenda, A6, dredging updates. And also, anyone who's still here from citizens input, after this topic, we'll be going to citizens input. So if you have a desire to participate in citizens input and you haven't done so, please fill out a comment card to my left, your right on the table. City clerk will pick it up right before citizens input. So we will move on to the dredging updates.
Good afternoon, Mr. Mayor, members of council. Jordan Zamory with the Stormwater Division Engineer. Let me go ahead and get our presentation up here. That's not it. Did he put it under James? Oh, there we go. One of these. Okay, so I'm here today just to give a kind of a holistic update on where we currently stand with the dredging efforts. I know we're constantly giving updates from the base level up the chain, but there's really been no direct communication, and we thought that it deserved a little bit more attention and some visuals to go along with it. So the canal dredging program is for, as you know, 400 miles of canal we have in the city, 222 saltwater, 156 fresh, and 31 miles of shoreline that's not within the canals themselves. The purpose of the dredging operation is to improve water flow, flood protection, safe navigation, and ecosystem health. Current status, as it's been for some time now, we are in permitting with both DEP and the Army Corps. Contracts are going to be bid once the permits are received and we go through the procurement process. The city is in the process of acquiring an in-house spot dredge, which thank you for that, got a recent approval. That'll be for small projects and flexibility, moving around from site to site quickly, no mobilization or demobilization from a general contractor. This will also be able to be used for establishing and maintenance of ramps and marinas. As I said, the majority of the dredge, which is considered maintenance, will be performed by contractors funded through the stormwater fee. We currently have approximately $2 million budgeted annually for performance of that work once it mobilizes. Activities will follow environmental regulations to protect the water quality and habitats. Now, looking at what the actual dredge footprint looks like when we go through and have the contractor perform this, regardless of the width of the canal, it'll be the central navigable portion, which is defined as everything up until 20 feet from the seawall. So permits are being obtained that would allow the homeowners to touch in that 20-foot area if they want, but the city-funded portion is just within these bounds. The dredge depth in saltwater environment is 5 feet below the mean low water elevation, and with freshwater, it's 5 feet below the fixed weir elevation upstream. Activities will, again, follow environmental regulations to protect the water quality and the habitats. There are 2 types of dredging that can be used. Our permits have been submitted to allow for either or, depending upon the contractor awarded the work. There's hydraulic dredges, which is typically an auger and pump assembly that moves the sediment from the water in a slurry and is transported via pipes, as city manager alluded to before. That was the method that the city used internally in the past. Then there's mechanical dredging, which is basically an excavator mounted on a barge using the digging mechanism to remove that and offload it onto barges or trucks to then be transported off-site. A little bit of background on where we were that led us to today. The city had previously held a 10-year maintenance dredging permit covering the entire city. There is permitting required from both FDEP and the Army Corps, depending upon the jurisdictions, primarily saltwater being the Army Corps, freshwater DEP. So when the last permit was expiring, we requested an authorization to extend our current permit because we were trying to take it out to construction. We were granted a two-year renewal because of the impacts of hurricanes. And after that, when we took the request to the Corps to renew those permits, we were given this canned response here that the individual permit was issued for 10 years. In 2019 and 21, a 2-year extension was given. The Corps cannot extend the permit again after having 2 previous extensions, and this is per orders from headquarters. So we started the process of really from scratch, obtaining new permits. So the city is now pursuing a citywide permit plus 3 standalone permits, and we'll get into why those are separated. Matlacha and Redfish, I think most know about that, but Unit 4464, which includes Cape Harbor, has been separated recently, and dredging cannot proceed until these permits are approved. So the permitting process with the Corps, this is dictated by Section 404 Clean Water Act and Section 10 Rivers and Harbors Act. Reviews are done of environmental impacts, navigation, and federal interests, with a special interest on protected species. The DEP, which again I said they have primary jurisdiction over the freshwater, they're delegated authority for dredging and water quality permits. The permit applications that we currently have out, both approved and not yet approved, we have the citywide, which is still under review with the Corps, and then we have 3 standalone permits. Matlacha, which is currently back under review. We had a previous Matlacha permit for 1 footprint, and then when we were guided by the Corps to essentially separate out some areas because of species issues to shorten our review period, one of them was directly adjacent to Matlacha, so we've since amended that permit to extend the footprint and include that section, break it out from the master citywide. Redfish has basically completed in the same path which it started. We recently got that permit approved and procurement is in process for this. It should be advertised very shortly, probably within the next week or two. Units 44 and 64 is currently in preparation. Again, I said the Corps pointed out some areas that had environmental sensitivity considerations. Council approved a scope for additional work to be done to separate this as its own permit. Currently, seagrass survey, volumetric analysis, and plan document creation is underway. So for a visual of where these locations lie, on the left you could see we have Matlash, actually, yeah, that's our Matlacha, which up until right about where the spreader goes in there and you start to see the heavy blue, that was the original extent of the Matlacha permit. We've since amended in this additional area in blue by the recommendation of the Corps. In red on the citywide map, that's what currently stands as our citywide maintenance permit that is, after removal of these couple sections by amendment, is going back to the Corps for review. Units 44 and 64, those were just submitted to the Corps, let's see, on the 6th of this month. So that section was separated out, and then Redfish, which has not changed since its conception, was consisted of these two areas along the eastern perimeter of the city, and then the opening of the canalway just to the west of. Next step in our process, as I said, Redfish is about to be advertised, and we intend, as we obtain the permits, to advertise, bid, and award dredging contracts. Again, based upon funding, what's able to be done. We know that we'll be able to knock out Redfish and Matlacha. Citywide is going to be pending how much we can accomplish with each year's fiscal budget. So, under permit compliance, as we move through the process with these other permits that are still pending, we'll address agency comments and finalize all permit conditions, get set up with the environmental monitoring framework. And then when we move into work execution, we intend to keep the public notified. When we move into the citywide wholesale dredging, we intend to have a PIO on board to keep constant outreach to the citizens. We're working on the mobilization of the contractor, how we're going to take care of that, because like Mr. City Manager said, it used to be done where the piping was running between the lots, but if we're doing a mechanical excavation of that material, it would have to be offloaded, so we'd be looking at using the existing boat ramps and maybe having to purchase properties and install more of those citywide, just enough to have access to every basin. Already went over the equipment that could be used: hydraulic dredge, support barges, transport trucks, mechanical dredge. We're going to get into the phasing plan here in a minute. And I did mention that we will have some controls in place for environmental concerns while the work is done. That's typically consisting of turbidity barriers, OSHA compliance, environmental compliance, making sure you take readings of how much turbidity you're creating. So this is not something that we've really spoken too much in the past, but was a good framework was set up by Johnson Engineering back in 2019 when they did the study for us before a couple canals were dredged out before the permit expired. So our intent is to start in the vicinity of Rosen Park, and dredging will be done in a grid fashion, working around the city. And I apologize, this is a clerical error we just caught a little bit ago. We actually intend to work clockwise, not counterclockwise. Johnson gave us a grading system where, based upon the levels present in the canal from mean low water to the base of the canal, if there's a standard like 3-foot depth available, it can get I think that's the grade C, but if you have localized areas with even shallower, it gets the C star and then grades of D. So anything with a level of service C star or below would get priority. And within those, again, also based upon funding, priority will be given to canals that act more as arterials that connect multiple adjacent canals and have direct access to the Calusa, Hatchie, or Matlacha Pass. Second priority going to the collectors, and then finally with the local roads. So we really want to, we know that long-term it's going to take years and years and extensive amounts of funding to make this happen, but we want to get the most return on investment, bang for our buck up front. So giving the most throughway for boating traffic as possible, as early as possible. Continuing on that, like we said, we'll be using that as our criteria for selecting the canals that get dredged. It'll have to be on a case-by-case basis because there may be instances where we do have localized areas that need more attention, but it's not feasible to mobilize a contractor. And then that's why we're looking at our spot dredges as a auxiliary method of dealing with this problem we have citywide. So working in this grid-like manner and prioritizing minimizes the number of times the contractor will have to mobilize, which is the most costly portion of this project, short of trucking. Combining the efficiencies of reducing mobilizations with two-faceted prioritization structure, it will maximize the return on investment. And then, like I said, the spot dredge will be used to address outliers, like if we have a local canal that has an extreme issue where it only has 6 inches of depth, but it's only in a very small footprint, it's not worth spending $20,000 to $50,000 to mobilize a contractor, but we could just send our crew in for a day and knock it out. Timeline moving forward, we have our permit review on all of the various locations. We've got, once the permits are approved, we move into bid and procurement and then construction. So with that, I'm sure there are questions. I'm here for them.
Thank you, Councilmember Kilrain.
Mayor, may I bring up, I'd like to bring up Maureen before we go to questions and answers.
Okay.
I wanted to inform the City Council that I spoke with federal lobbyist Amanda Wood a few minutes ago, and due to the federal government shutdown, the issuance of Army Corps permits is on pause until that's resolved. So I'm going to make sure everyone's aware of that.
So all the permits that we have in related to the Corps haven't been touched since the shutdown and will continue to be indefinitely suspended until then. So when I talk to you about we can't control the Corps, here's a perfect example. I mean, in any of these permits, we never would have anticipated the offices are closed.
Councilmember Kilrain.
Yeah, it's a shame we can, stop a war in the Gaza Strip, but we can't run the government at the national level. Just with respect to the decision as to whether or not you're using mechanical, the clamshell, or using hydraulic. Typically, my experience in this has been that we use hydraulic for longer term, shorter, shallower, continuous programs, and the clamshell for the immediate depth that you need and probably more spot. Is that the selection criteria you're using, or how are you doing it?
I would say for 90% of instances that would be true, but here in Cape Coral where we could encounter coral shelf, and as I've been told in the past, they come across anything from car tires, shoes, to engine blocks that would really destroy the mechanism on a hydraulic dredge. So at least for our internal performance, we went with the mechanical dredge. That this picture here is actual, it's obviously not a brand new one, but that's a picture of the setup we're currently trying to purchase.
Okay.
Now,
Do you plan on a long-term continuous program then along these, I know you mentioned that, but it would be continuous in each of these areas, or you'd hop from one area to another for a continuous program?
We know that this is going to take years and years to accomplish, but the solicitation that we're putting out for Redfish Point is really what we're going to use as our meter to indicate, based upon our annual allocation, how long would it take us to address the entire city? And if we need to expedite that and shift funds, then we make that choice as we move.
And are you confident in your water levels, evaluation depth of canals right now? Are you pretty sure about that? You know, for a priority setting standpoint, do we have to do another study or anything like that ahead of time?
We will be performing in-house survey for the citywide canals. Stantec has performed the survey work for Redfish Point, Matt Lachey, and is currently doing it. Oh, they just finished up with the Unit 4464, but we will be collecting it in-house ahead of letting out contracts, because contractors are using the pre and post survey as the indicator of performance and payment. So they're very hesitant to work with anything that's over a year or two old. So we really want to have it very close in proximity timeline wise to when we put the work out on the street.
City Manager, is there anything in this upcoming budget for this, or what's in there for it?
You mean as far as dredging? Yeah, we have money in the budget for
Okay.
dredging.
I mean, it was an annual fee. I thought it was just a grab number that we put in there, though. Do you remember what the number was? I can't remember.
I don't.
No, I don't need
It's
it
two,
now,
we
but I
currently
just
have
wanted.
about $2 million annually.
I'm sorry?
We currently have approximately $2 million
Oh,
each year
okay.
allocated.
All right, thank you. Thank you, Mayor.
Councilmember Steinke?
Thank you very much. And thank you for the presentation. The citizens deserve to know what's going on there, especially with all the waterfront residents that we have with vessels that are affected. I had the opportunity to be the liaison for the Waterway Advisory Board and connected up with many of the people in the area that are boating enthusiasts. And as this information hasn't been brought regularly to them, obviously concerns around, hey, when is the dredge going to happen? How come it hasn't happened yet? A group of those citizens coalesced, if you will, and asked for my help a while back, and I've been working with them. Hats off to James Brakefield from our Public Works Department. He's been working with me with that group of citizens. After hearing the information and the fact that we have been doing all we can do to get it done, and the logjam all in this was the Army Corps permits, and along the way DEP played into it as well. The concern was, why aren't we pressing our legislators more upstream, state and federal, to get this done, since our canal system is such a critical component of our infrastructure here, and truly part of our transportation grid, as many of our citizens came here for that purpose. And many of them have been, in efforts to move through our canal system with their boats, actually suffering damage because of the canal systems being too shallow, because of dredging not being done. To that end, we have prepared, and Assistant to the City Manager, Bice, mentioned our federal lobbyist. We have engaged our lobbyists as recently as last week as to who needs to receive these letters and who do we need to help put the pedal to the metal on getting these things approved, so that we can get the work started, get the work done for these citizens. And we've gotten those answers back. A letter has been formulated that will come from my letterhead in working with that citizen group, and representing all the reasons why we need their help in getting this approved. And so our federal lobbyist is putting together that list of who that letter needs to be addressed to, which will be more than one legislator. And one of the things that I would ask of this body is, do we as a body want anything more than that? For instance, something to come from the entire council representing the entire city as a follow-up to that communication that is going out, representing, if you will, a pocket of citizens from me, because of me working with them, do we want to follow something up with that representing the whole city from the entire council? So I would like some feedback on whether you take that feedback, Mr. City Manager, and then we put something together as a follow-up piece to this. We will have the council of our lobbyists of who do we engage in getting this thing pushed through. Because one of the things that happened when we got counsel on why is this taking so long, it was because everything was being approached in a bulk permit application, and we were given counsel to separate some of the things out of that and resubmit. So this permit that was sitting on their desk for as long as it has been sitting there was submitted in a way that it required multi-agency review. And by separating 2 or 3 of the projects out,
Descoping.
yeah, it was descoping the permit that was going to be approved to separate out all that multi-agency review that was required. And so what we don't want to have happen is now that that's been sitting there for 18 months, to have them look at this as a brand new permit that just got put on someone's desk, but instead fast track the application now that it is limited in scope and get it through and approved, so that this maintenance dredging can happen, and so that these folks aren't, ruining their vessels trying to get out, or having to, time it on a super moon tide at a time when they can get their boat out of their backyard. So, do we want to do something more than that, or do what we're talking about and then see how it goes?
Based on the information that we got from our federal lobbyists, I don't think a letter would hurt to our legislators, because we got to get these people back to work. And when they do, they're going to have to go through a backlog of all the other letters and emails and responses they were expecting. And so somehow we got to get them first back to work, and now get them back to prioritizing our project. So I don't think at this point a letter would hurt. I did find out literally today that in the past, getting a congressional member involved in permitting suspended the process. I just found out today that they have suspended that practice. And so now bringing them in might not hurt.
Okay. Thank you.
So do you want to get a letter together as a collective body and send? Is that what you're asking, Councilmember Sankey?
Well, we've already got the letter prepared to send.
From
that
them.
group of
Right, I'm talking about a
citizens
letter.
I've been working with. And I think if we were to follow up with that within a week or two, with something from the entire council representing the entire city, certainly could use that letter as a model, and feed off of that and harumph it if necessary. So that's what I would recommend.
And we can engage our federal lobbyists to make sure that those letters are seen and understood, that the impacts to Cape Coral from what we're experiencing.
Yeah, I mean, and my point in a lot of that was, if the governor getting involved can build a Sanibel Bridge in 2 weeks, I don't think it's, moving mountains to just get a dredging permit approved so that we can have safe passage within our canals.
Is everybody okay with
Sure, absolutely.
coming up with a letter? All right.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
All right, thank you for the presentation. Any questions regarding the presentation? Okay, seeing none, let's move on to item 6, is roundtable discussions. I think we had enough of those today, but does everybody have any roundtable discussions? All right, that's good. Let's move on to item 7, the citizens input time. Citizens input is a maximum of 60 minutes is set for the input of citizens on matters concerning city government, 3 minutes per individual. Please remember to state your name when you come forward. The city clerk will call your name. When you hear your name called, please come forward. Use the podium to my left, your right.
Marie Kavanaugh and David Hunsley.
Hey, one of you guys left your, oh, one of those guys left
Marie Kavanaugh?
Marie?
All right, before you start the clock, I have a complaint. I came here this morning to come in this meeting, and I was refused entry because I did not present an ID, which is not by sunshine laws required. They told me if I signed the log to get in here, and the police told me it's a new rule. There is no new rule. I called the Breeze, and I talked with the editorial people down there, and they were astounded. They never heard it. Stop that clock.
Keep going, ma'am. 3 minutes.
And they, I talked to them and they said, that is a direct violation of your First Amendment rights. I says, yes, it is. And they inquired further, got back to me, and they said, someone here, I'm not sure who it is, but I'm sure it's 1, 2, or 3, told the police to say this. And I want to know who that was and why I had to travel from south of Cape Coral Parkway near Rotary Park up here and have to be turned around and not be allowed in here because I refused to show an ID I was not required to show.
Oh, no.
So somebody riddle me that. And about the yacht club, okay? I don't know why you think spending $225 million is a good idea. All you need to do is look at Sunseeker. They spent $700 million building that. They got a beautiful boardwalk along the edge of the property. They got beautiful shops, nice hotel rooms. It's a beautiful, beautiful facility with an expansive view of the river. Now, what do we have down here? Now, the reason, and they spent $700 million building it, and they just sold it for $200 million. You're not going to get anything like that for the money you're looking at spending. And the money you're looking to spend does not include the price of the property or the value of the property. You have 1,800 plus properties owned by the city. Instead of borrowing money, why don't you start selling off some of the properties? Go to places like Tunnels to Towers. Offer them some property to build homes for homeless veterans. Do something good. Now what are you going to do? Give it to developers? Is there a hotel involved in this thing? If there's a hotel, do you expect the hotel guests to share the pool with the masses? They're not going to like that. They're not going to spend $200-300 a night, whatever they get for hotel rooms these days. They're not going to spend that and then have to go into a pool with the unwashed masses of Cape Coral. You people... and I want an answer on that. You denied me there's already a letter on the way up to Tallahassee. I already wrote a letter. Someone has got to answer for that, and I want to know who it was that told the police that. I called the police, too. So it's a mistake. Yeah, right, okay. It's a mistake. How many people came in here and showed them an ID that they didn't have to? I don't have to show anybody my ID.
One person in the back's raising their hand.
What?
Apparently they showed.
I can't hear you.
Two people had to show an ID.
Two people didn't have to show an ID?
Two people did have to show an ID this morning to get in.
What about the rest of them?
Well, there's only 3 of you here.
You're not required. The thing is, my point is, we're not required to show an ID.
Okay, I don't know anything.
And I don't know who the heck you people think you are, denying me my rights.
Thank you.
My First Amendment rights.
Okay.
Don't worry. You think that we've been bad now?
Come on up, sir.
Up to now, it's going to get a lot worse for all of you.
Yep. Thanks.
Hi,
How you doing today?
I'm David Halsey. I want to point out a couple things. First of all, thank you very much for sending me the literature you sent me a couple weeks ago, and thank you for the heads up about the meeting today. Thank you about all the questions that you answered for me yesterday. I appreciate both of y'all. Couple things. I want to use some of the terminology that y'all use as far as the yacht club goes, as far as a want and a need. This is a lot of money, y'all, and I'm going to try not to use the word we, but it's a lot of money. I also did some figures, and granted, it's $9.19 or some change a month for me, but that's for, what, 30 years? I'm not going to be around for 30 years. This idea about a P3, that's fine, but I don't want to see a P3 with a hotel down there. I'd like to go back to also Ken Kendrick's letter that I keep referring to and his idea, and I think both of y'all made a point that if we spend all this money now, what's going to happen in the future? You want to build, they just, like you said, they just spent $36,000 in District 7. Now they're going to put more on that? What's going to happen with the golf course? Where's that money going to come from? We haven't finished J.C. Park yet. We have a lot of wants. Let's look at the needs, please. I think that's my point. I made some notes, and y'all have already answered some of my questions. Again, I don't believe we need a resort-style pool down there. It's going to get wiped out. I think we ought to put the pool at the golf course. I'm going to go back to Ken's letter that he wrote. The community center down there, it's outlived its course. That's where my parents went when they moved here and met their neighbors. My mom played bridge. My parents had their 50th wedding anniversary down there. Let's put something central at the golf course. We could probably cut some of this down. I don't know why we have to have it was the yacht club. Now we're going to put a marina over there that's huge. We're talking about the fuel tanks. Is there a diesel fuel tank for these huge, monstrous yachts that we're going to have at the yacht club, at the marina? There's a lot of questions. Again, the pool, the parking garage. Oh my gosh. When you look at the pictures on page 7 or 8, slide 7 or 8, at first when I looked at that yesterday, I thought, oh, I'm out of town. I thought it was a hotel.
Thank you.
Thank you all.
Thank you, sir.
Nicole Boudet and Catherine Farrell.
Nicole? All right, who was the next person?
Annette Warren. On behalf of Thron Schreier and Sarah Sandy.
Good afternoon. I'm speaking on behalf of Tron Schreier. We're just asking, it's about the PUE. We're just asking if you guys would reconsider the boundaries if there are no utilities overhead, and allow for a vertical placement of things like the air conditioner and pool pumps and generators, just because that's kind of his design. He had it up over, not on the ground, but up on top. And if there are no utilities overhead, if that would be something to consider, moving the boundaries of the PUE from above the ground to just being vertical. Thank you. Horizontal, sorry.
Patricia Schumacher.
I don't think she's here anymore.
Lucas Seracio.
Hi, guys. You've been seeing a lot of me today. So I'm standing in front of y'all. First of all, I'm going to say thank you all for allowing me to speak and talk. And this issue has pretty much put me in harm's way. Not intentionally, but I built this house on 14 Bernstore. I'm the guy who built it and put it together. And I built another 3 of these exact same houses for the same contract, under the same contract for the same person. And as we go through this process, and I know that you guys understand it is a lengthy process to get a permit, and we waited sometimes 4 months to get a permit, sometimes 2 months to get a permit, and it's been put in review and so on and so forth. Us as builders, we intend to know all the Florida building code. And when it comes to the ordinance, There's really not a place where we can find it all in one spot. And sometimes we make mistakes as individuals. Anybody makes mistakes, right? We can all agree on that. So when I put it into you guys for a review and I get a permit, I have to assume that I did everything correctly if I wasn't rejected. Now, when I was putting in my permits, I put in my electrical, I put in my HVAC, I have to put in everything. Now, I don't know how your review process goes past what I put together for you, but it's very stringent. And when we put it all together, as you know, Mayor, you build houses here, you expect somebody to kick it back if there's a problem. And if I didn't foresee this problem and I didn't see it, because we know we have our offsets we have to go by. That is standard across the board, anywhere, in any county, any place you build. And city ordinance is one of the things that we probably overlook most of the time as a builder, because we have so many codes that we have to understand and follow. And I'm not disagreeing that there is a mistake here. I'm not disagreeing at all. But I need you guys to look at this as, if it was you in my shoes, now, when it's all done, after you already built 3 of the same houses with worse issues, may I add, and the game that we have here is there's a lot of hidden houses that missed or weren't found. For instance, I would have never built a house if I would have known this was going to be the problem. I didn't do it intentionally. And the problem here is, you guys use an analogy of speeding. Now, if you're going down the road and you're speeding, you know you're speeding. You know the law. And I'm not trying to play I'm ignorant, but I am telling you, if I would have known about this, it would have never happened. And there's a lot of people in my shoes. And they're going to be here.
Thank you, sir.
Your Honor, there are no other.
Okay, I'll open it up for any council discussion for citizens' input. Mr. City Manager.
I just want to let you know, I'll speak to the chief about the issue with the ID, but I can tell you that during normal hours, the second floor, we have open public forums, limited public forums, and non-public forums. There could have very well been a mistake that I'm going to a meeting not knowing it was this meeting and needed to identify themselves to call whomever they were going to see. That this very plausible, just knowing what I know of the normal operations of the building. They have to identify who they are, where they're going, and then we get somebody to come get them. It could have been a simple miscommunication, an overreaction, and sounds like somebody driving without a license. Thank you.
All right, Councilmember Kadook.
Thank you, Mayor. What I was going to say, and thank you, Mr. City Manager, for saying that, but it is my understanding in every government building that I've been in, I've presented ID or I've spoken about who I am. And even with my bank job, I have an ID. And even here, I have an ID. And even my husband, who works at the hospital, has an ID that he has to show. So it's really not out of the norm to be showing and identifying who you are. So I'm sorry that happened to Miss Marie Kavanaugh, but we do need to be driving with IDs to come to places. So there's that. Mr. Holsey, thank you so much for your enlightening. You know, you've been very, very steadfast about the no resort style pool. And I want to just mention that if we do move forward with something like this, and that's why I asked Mr. Mason specifically about the bonding and the debt that we would be taking on, because I know Councilmember Lastra, your heart project is the old golf course, and this will completely, you won't be able to borrow any money. Yeah, so we will be tied up for quite some time. My heart project is a performing arts hall, which is why I specifically asked about that. So without a P3 or without scaling way back, this is going to be a no for me for now. Or if we're going to take it to the voters and have them vote on it. So thank you, Mr. Holsey, for staying here and sticking it out. I mean, it's 4:30 and you've come to everything. I'm glad that you came when I sent it to you, and thank you so much for your input, valuable input constantly. I finally am starting to see your side of it. You know, at first I'm just being swindled by it, but yeah, thank you. And then Annette, thank you for speaking on behalf of Tron. I know he corners me a lot about this stuff, so we'll see what we can do, and we'll take a look at his property line. I know that him and his neighbor bought the property in between there, so maybe he needs to just restrap it into the right parcel. And then, Mr. Lucas, I didn't catch your last name, I'm sorry. Thank you so much for speaking. I know that you have a license as a builder, and I have a license as a lender, and while it's not like you intentionally did it, however, when you do find out about it, you have to fix the mistake. So thank you for coming and sticking it out and speaking on that. I know it wasn't a malice intent, but sometimes things happen, and that's how we all learn. Happens in my own profession, too. Thank you, Mayor.
Councilmember Laster.
Thank you. And yes, I agree. Thank you, Mr. City Manager, for clarifying the ID. It really saddens me that, it just saddens me. I mean, I don't even know how else to say it. You know, just that an ID, I mean, it's pretty standard. You know, I work at Goodwill Industries and off of High Street, and I have a badge as well. I have like 3 different badges in my car. So, I mean, you know, I'm sorry that that sparked such passionate and I guess threatening response. So I appreciate the clarification, Mr. Ilchism, and you know, maybe it's not a bad idea to require IDs. I know that downstairs we use them. So thank you for that. And David, you're the best. I mean, you stick it out every meeting. I appreciate and applaud your decorum, and I appreciate that even though you don't agree, like with the yacht club, like all of us, I think, are questioning that because we all realize it's a huge expense on us, we, the taxpayers. I appreciate that from you. I appreciate your calmness and your decorum because honestly, I've said this before, you make it so much easier for us to understand what you're trying to say. Annette, thank you. And Lucas, I will be happy to give you a call tomorrow if you have any additional questions. I know we met yesterday, but I'll be happy to do that just to kind of tie this up with you. Did you have something to say, Mr. City Manager?
No, I mean, all I was going to do is share in your sadness. I mean,
It's unfortunate.
a simple mistake, you know, when we do have residents that all they see is corruption and, a government that is full of tyrannical employees. And I've been trying my hardest for 2 years to prove that that is not the case. Cape Coral is a professionally run organization. But you know what? There are 1,900 employees and some of them make mistakes.
Yeah, nobody's perfect.
So
It just,
I'll figure out what happened. But,
you.
coming in and demanding, an answer and an apology and all, threatening, I mean, it's just not part of how our board meeting should be run. And you know
Sure.
what? If there was a mistake, I'll deal with it. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate that transparency. And, just so you all know, I've offered to meet with Mrs. Kavanaugh a few times, and the last time she said she wasn't comfortable unless she brought a witness, which I've offered to her as well. So I'm hoping that eventually she'll take me up on a meeting and meet with me face to face so we can sit down in a calm setting and I can understand her passion and her anger. Thank you, Mayor.
Yeah, and I just want to touch real briefly on the gentleman that came forward on the issue he has with the PUE. And I don't know if you watched the meeting earlier. I don't think I saw you in here earlier this morning when we were, was he here? Were you here? And I'm sure you heard what the discussion was. And I can sympathize with you. I've been in your shoes before. And, 25 years, 30 years ago, I remember doing a project in another city that I hadn't worked in before, and there were some issues some things I had to change because I wasn't familiar with their policies and regulations. So I've been there where you're at. Unfortunately, as you heard here this morning, that regulation's not going to change. So unfortunately, you're going to have to find a way to work around and become compliant in the regulation. I'm more than happy to meet you out there. I can give you my input if you would like it. But the fact of the matter is, the rule's not going to change. I know you've talked to many people, our state representatives and many people on this council and staff and the building official. When you leave here today, I just want you to understand that you are going to have to change the way some of the items were constructed down there that are in the PUE. So it's not going to change. As you heard this morning, we had about 16 cases. I think about 10 of those have already moved their mechanical equipment in order to become compliant. Unfortunately, that's what you're going to have to do. You're going to have to come up with an alternative. And like I said, more than happy if you want me to meet you out there, I'll be more than happy to discuss that and try to help you become compliant, where you can get your CO on your home that you built and you can move on, because I'm sure that's what you want to do. So I just wanted to offer that to you. Reach out to my office. I'll be more than happy to meet you out there. With that being said, see no other discussion, no other lights on. Time and place of a future meeting. We have a special meeting. Cape Coral City Council is scheduled for Wednesday, October 22nd, 2025, beginning at 2 p.m. here in Conference Room 220A. And we have a regular meeting of the Cape Coral City Council is scheduled for Wednesday, October 22nd, beginning at 4 p.m. in council chambers. Do I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
All in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Meeting adjourned.